Over the last 8 days, viewer, if you've been following the India-Canada flashpoint closely like I have, you may have noticed how a vast number of Western commentators, experts, journalists have busied themselves giving, in some cases, lectures to India. India should tread carefully. India should not escalate this. India should not raise this in the United Nations. India should not want to be on such a list. India should not get on the bad side of the Five Eye Alliance. India should not squander the goodwill of G20. India should not risk its new partnerships in the Anglosphere. India should not let this flare-up threaten its relationships in the West. India should be careful not to be equated with Russia and Saudi Arabia. India should not become a rogue state. India should handle this with care. India should do this, India should do that. For these experts and commentators, the entire onus of being responsible is on India. Sitting in their offices in Washington, D.C. or New York or wherever it is they live, most of these experts and gyanis have chosen the easy way out. Chalo, India ko lecture karte hain. After all, it's a third world country that's not sure of its footing on the international stage. India is, after all, still saddled with all its domestic issues. India is an ambitious rookie in world affairs, and India will have to just let all our collective gyan just wash over it. But there have been a few commentators, I have to say, who have stood out, risen above the puerility of the Western commentariat and think tank circuit to call the truth out like they see it. The truth that must be faced, the truth that Justin Trudeau should now be seen not only as perhaps one of Canada's most incompetent prime ministers, but one under whom Canada's international reputation, such as it is, has been irrevocably damaged. I don't have to go over what Trudeau has managed to achieve in just this last 1 week, viewer, because you saw that on my show just a couple of days ago. He has managed, however, to inflame India with his messy and still unsubstantiated claim on the killing of Hardeep Nijjar, the terrorist. He has angered Israel, Poland, Germany and France by hosting and honoring a Nazi in the Canadian House of Commons. He has rubbed Russia the wrong way by cozying up to Ukraine's President Zelensky, even though both leaders ended up becoming a global laughingstock as they gave that Nazi a standing ovation in the House of Commons a couple of days ago. He has reminded Sri Lanka of Canada's track record in providing a safe haven to LTTE members. His hubris has nudged Bangladesh into reminding the world that the assassin of their founder president has been protected by Canada for a quarter century, as I showed you on my show yesterday. He has irked his Five Eyes alliance partners, the US, UK and Australia, by putting them in an awkward position, by putting them in a spot and asking them to take a stand against India, which they haven't and refuse to. Perhaps above all, however, as a result of this global campaign of self-humiliation, Trudeau has infuriated his very own country, Canada, the most. And that's today. Let's forget about the India angle for a moment, because it has become glaringly obvious that Justin Trudeau's attack on India is only one small part of a much larger campaign to somehow rescue a political system and government that is seen in perhaps poorer light than any other Canadian government before it in the last 50 years. Once again, viewer, it's not me saying it, it's the Canadian media. Vast numbers of Canadians now see their Prime Minister as someone who has diminished and damaged Canada's international reputation beyond measure. In his 8th year thus far as the Canadian Prime Minister, many prominent Canadian commentators see Trudeau as someone who has presided over a geographically giant nation, now seen as an international lightweight, a country without consequence, a country no longer taken that seriously in UN peacekeeping, not even considered in obvious groupings like the Quad, despite Canada being a Pacific nation, completely ignored on forums like the G20, militarily a nothing burger, and for all practical purposes, a flavorless, impactless, unmemorable state. Canada was still okay being an unmemorable, unexciting country. But now Trudeau has reminded a hyper-connected world that Canada is also a protector of the world's terrorists and wanted criminals. His attack on India comes a year after Trudeau's party very cutely launched an Indo-Pacific strategy as an offset to China's rising power, as much of the West has done. As Lorne Gunter, one of the few Canadian commentators speaking straight on this issue, says the Indo in Indo-Pacific, someone should tell Mr. Trudeau, stands for India. And Trudeau has completely blown that, leaving Canada without a major strategic partnership in Asia. Let that sink in. At some level, you've got to admire Justin Trudeau. It's not easy to achieve all of this in just 8 days.